fast lane when I pass in the street. Bag of money in the passenger seat. Simcoe's been asking for me on the road from the west to the east. Way up, I might never come down, cause the coast racking up the flight miles. So high, I might never come down, so what, this is my lifestyle.
What's going on, everybody? Man, Eric Wilson in for the Sports Arena. And some things are going on, as we know, it is free agency. And so I had to have a conversation with this young lady who was making her debut here on the show, because not only is she phenomenal at what she does, but she definitely has her ear to the ground with regard to a team in the NFC East that is truly, I believe, on the come up. I've had the pleasure of seeing her numerous times, and I really thought I was one of the hardworking people out there until I met my next guest. She is the president of Bowie TV and is the Washington Commanders beat reporter, Miss Candi Waller, making her debut here on the Sports Arena. How are you?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
Doing well. Thank you for taking time to join me here today.
Absolutely.
So I got to start this conversation by simply saying, you know, I've met your quarterback, right? I'm sure you already had many conversations with Mr. Jaden Daniels, but I was privileged to meet him in New Orleans and shook his hand. And I told him to his face, young man, you are a generational talent. And I don't say that about a lot of people. I said, the only thing that sucks is that I got to play you twice a year. So, Candi, I had to bring you in today because Washington is making a lot of moves in free agency. Forget about the free signings. I mean, the re-signings, if you will, of bringing back certain players. But for me, I was in Indianapolis. I was at the Combine when Deebo Samuels got traded to Washington, and you were immediately the first person I thought of. So I want to ask you, when you saw the news, like the rest of us, what was your reaction?
Well, my reaction was, wow, Adam Peters and Dan Quinn and Lance Newmark, who's their assistant general manager, they say what they mean, and they mean what they say. They talked a lot about getting more faster, more physical, and just beefing up some of the areas on the team. And we already kind of knew wide receiver was one of them. Earlier in that week, speaking of Combine week, it was already everyone knew that the 49ers had given Deebo Samuel permission to seek a trade. Right. So once the Commanders emerged as one of the top teams that was seeking him out, I'm like, okay, I'm pretty sure Adam Peters is doing what Adam Peters does and is going to try to get Deebo to DC. And right. That is exactly what they did. And they've been consistent. Their messaging has been consistent, and the moves that they make are aligned with their messaging. So they're basically, they say what they mean and they mean what they say.
Okay. But let's talk about some of the other acquisitions that have happened. I mean, first off, Javon Kinlaw, he was another name that I saw. Laramie Tunsil, another name that I saw. Will Harris. I mean, Eddie Goldman. I was like, hold on. Y'all trying to really build something over here. That's when my ears kind of, I perked up and I was like, okay, realizing that in our particular division, because as you know, I am a Philadelphia Eagles guy, it seems as though Washington is truly trying to bring themselves out of third or fourth within that division, seeing how successful they were last year in getting to the NFC Championship game. So since you're there, what has been kind of just the energy in the room with talking to the coaches and talking to the players about what this team looks like?
I mean, this is a team that wants to win and wants to win consistently. What we all watched last season is real. It is real. I know even for myself, right, having grown up in Prince George's County, Maryland, grown up a fan of all the area teams, and then, switching over to the sports industry, it's still like being objective was hard because the team and the franchise was just so bad. And it was like, oh my goodness, like why would I have picked this job to do this here? Because the team was just not good at all, which we all know. And to see them come in and in year one, do what they did and just say, we're going to do this every year. And this is what it takes to get here is like, wow. Right. I mean, this was a team from an NFLPA survey perspective, the last 2 years, dead last, and by far F minuses almost across the board. Who even knew a F minus existed? So they went from last in the NFL in terms of just overall player satisfaction to 11th. And then you couple that with them getting to the NFC Championship, and the energy is exactly what everyone is saying it is. I mean, even the players that you're mentioning that they're signing, they're talking about when they pull up and walk into the building, even the re-signings as well. But when they walk up to the building, all the coaches are there. If any players have been working out, they stop what they're doing. They come, they're cheering, they're happy, they're playing their favorite song, they're doing all the things to greet these players coming in the building like it's the first day of school. Like, they are so happy to see them and their families, and they really care about each other. The culture is different, and they all want to be competitive and ultimately win a championship.
Okay, when we look at the NFC as a whole, in years past, and as you have said and I have said, Washington was never a team that in the preseason we were predicting to make it into the playoffs. If they got in, it was because other teams just didn't seem to either want to play or have the it factor, and Washington could slide in. But since Jaden Daniels has emerged on the scene, there has been a different mindset. And granted, ownership plays a lot into that. Coaching plays a lot into that. But as what we see on the field, or at least from my lens, it's what Jaden Daniels brings along with a Terry McLaurin, along with Robinson and the rest of the crew. Of course, you have one of my all-time favorite players in Zach Ertz. I'm never happy to see him in any other uniform but Philadelphia, but I'll take it for what it is. Candi, talk to me. And I know we're only in the month of March, but there has got to be, or you are beginning to see a formula, a blueprint, a game plan slightly emerge. Because again, in the NFC, you take the Philadelphias, you take the Detroits, you can take San Francisco's or Los Angeles Rams. I mean, the NFC South is pretty much pick your poison that's not named the Panthers or the Saints. But it seems as though Washington has emerged as that team that people are going to have to stand up and start paying attention to as we progress in the Jaden Daniels journey.
Absolutely. I mean, it goes back, when you say the blueprint, it goes back to kind of the age-old mantra is that it starts with your quarterback. Like, right. Yes, we have definitely seen teams be successful with, their backup. They're able to make it still a little bit further. Maybe the starter gets hurt, or you see the backup, go and do their thing, and it helps the team out, or they make the playoffs. But ultimately, it's that consistent QB1 where who the quarterback is going to be. One of the things about the Commanders over the years, or probably over, the last couple of decades, you never knew who the quarterback was going to be. Nobody ever knew who the quarterback was going to be. Now it is for certain the Washington Commanders, and everybody involved, like you just said, knows QB1 is Jaden Daniels. And so that's part of your formula right there in terms of, you talk about blueprint, right? Right. You have to know who your quarterback is going to be. From there, you just build. And one of the things that the Philadelphia Eagles has been so good at is building right in those trenches on the line of scrimmage. And that's when you talk about that other part of the blueprint. Now that's when where you see the Washington Commanders like, okay, right? All right. Because everybody saw what happened in the Super Bowl. And the Washington Commanders played the Eagles 3 times last year. So they know what it is. And they understand the teams that they have to beat in order to get to where they said they're going to go. They're going to have to face the Philadelphia Eagles at least twice. We learned this past year, could be 3 times, right? Could be 3 times. I thought I would never see it, but we did. We all saw it, right? An NFC championship. I promise you, I didn't think that was going to happen. And so, and then you take on, like you mentioned, the Detroit Lions. right? I mean, these are the teams that the Washington Commanders are going to consistently have to see if they want to be the NFC champion and go on to the Super Bowl. So when you talk blueprint, that QB1, you talk blueprint in the trenches, working on that line of scrimmage, which we're seeing the Commanders do now, right? In this second season together of the culture. And then it's building all of those pieces around it that makes it the culture that it wants to be. Another thing that I think is important, because you mentioned Zach Ertz, the leaders that they have in the room who understand what it takes to be a Super Bowl champion, right? They know what it feels to win. They know what it feels to lose. They have that, right? Because another one of the signings is Jonathan Jones, cornerback Jonathan Jones from the New England Patriots, who very early in his career experienced a Tom Brady at QB1 and knows what that looks like and knows how high those expectations are with the QB1 like Tom Brady and a head coach like Bill Belichick. He also knows what it feels like to lose and be at the bottom of the bottom, right? So he's able to bring that veteran expertise, as is Zach Ertz, as is the Bobby Wagner, to say, we know what it looks like. We know what it takes to approach practice, because how you practice is how you play. And that is what everybody is seeing on game days.
All right, my last question, and I want to speak to CWall, the fan, not the journalist, not the president of Bowie TV. I want to speak to the fan for a minute, because as someone who has had to endure and is now on the other side and things are bearing fruit to prosper, how are you feeling?
You know what? It is literally, it's like you don't even know how to feel most days. Like, seriously, it's like I'm pinching myself. Like, is this for real? And it was one of those things where it wasn't until the season was officially over that I was like, man, that was fun. Like, that was a lot of fun. And I was exhausted. So I'm like, for anybody that's covered a winning team, you know what working it through January feels like. I did not. I didn't know what that was like. And so it is a very long season. But I'm going to tell you, there was some moments that you didn't know how special it was at the time, like the Hail Mary game, right, against the Bears. Mm-hmm. Like, in the moment, it was like, oh my gosh. But it was still like mid-season, and you're like, the bottom's got to fall out at some point, right? Yeah.
Why do we do that?
I don't know why we do that.
Why do we always just expect that there's going to be the other shoe to drop instead of just riding the momentum? I had that same situation this year with Philadelphia, where I had a moment where, okay, something fitting to happen. Right. And I had to get out of that mindset. So because, we just like that. We're like, okay, this as a fan, we're like, where the other shoe? It's around here. So we know something.
Right.
But go ahead.
I mean, that's what it is. It's just you're waiting. And then it was almost like when the Commanders went on that 3-game losing streak, that felt normal, right? Because that's just what I'm used to. So I was just like, oh, here we go. Woo. You know what I mean? Back in my comfort zone. You know what I mean? I can figure out all the stories and all the questions and all the angles, because now I'm used to it. But I think it was the Hail Mary game that it was like, okay, this could be special. Then it was like the 3-game losing streak, like, more of the same. But I really think it was when the Commanders beat the Eagles in round 2 of the Commanders versus Eagles, and that the way the crowd was, the way the team was, and it was just like, I really think they're trying to go to, they're really trying to go to the playoffs. And it's like, duh, they've only been saying this since last March. Like it was still taking me a while to be like, oh, they really are trying to win these football games. Oh, and so as a fan, it's a lot of fun, and the fan base deserves all of the flowers that they're getting, because it's just been some really, really bad years, and they've stuck it out. So they deserve an owner and a front office that cares about them, cares about their fan experience. I mean, you know, the what was it when the railing fell on Jalen Hurts? That was the Eagles thing. All the things. So the fan base deserves goodness. You know, they deserve something to applaud and cheer about and you know, enjoy, because football is fun.
It is. Really at its core, that's exactly what it is. Ladies and gentlemen, like I said, she is the president of Bowie TV. She is a Washington Commanders beat reporter. Miss Candi CWall Waller, joining me here on the Sports Arena. Thank you so much for your time. I look forward to your articles. I look forward to seeing you as you continually push forward to give us that true Washington Commanders feel from not only inside, but also outside the locker room. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Of course. Ladies and gentlemen, it's your man Eric Wilson for the Sports Arena. Hey, everybody stay tuned. I will talk to you soon and stay blessed. Peace.